All right. Hey, what if the real secret to building a business that lasts isn't just strategy, but the people you surround yourself with? Today's guest has spent decades studying what makes companies endure. As the business chair for Peers on Demand in Chicagoland and the founder of Business Longevity World, Rocky Romero helps entrepreneurs build the relationships, accountability, and thinking that create businesses designed to last. Rocky, my friend, welcome to the Go for CEO channel. How are you?
I'm terrific, John. Thank you so much for having this and allowing me to have a time to be able to discuss with you what's going on in the world and business and you personally. So thank you for that, John.
Awesome, brother. Well, this is a long time coming. You were my first coach that I ever experienced. I remember back in the day, you let out, or I know you taught me this timeline, and I don't have it mastered, but I remember going through that exercise and visualizing some of the things that you put in that timeline and made me think about back in those days. And from then. I would give you a lot of credit to be one of the foundational people that kind of retweaked some of the ways I was thinking, recalibrated, and then obviously, with my book and some of the things that happened in my life, you are certainly a special person for me. And I've always admired the things that you're doing in the Chicagoland area and worldwide, because I know you have an impact all around the world. So, Rocky, why don't we share with the audience, Go for CEO, we always like to know kind of that foundational point, that period that you thought, oh, entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, maybe that you started in within a corporation, where were the focal points and some of the ways that you started your career?
Well, thanks for that, John. I appreciate that kind of introduction. And I'm showing up as an investor for the last 30 years. I think we're all investors. And that's not just money, but relationships and also our own selves. So, in consulting for as many years, because that was the road that I started is consulting in technology and being able to help people through sales and developing systems. And then about 15 years ago, I started coaching because I like the relationship aspect with people to be able to help them go through the direction and specifically with business coaching because I like business and coaching, talking to people and being able to get results. And then more recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, I started this space that we call peersondemand.com as a real good way for us to connect every day, every work day with different industry groups and be able to find out where they're at, who they are, where they're at, and where they're going. And we look and listen for big ideas and opportunities, ways that we can work together, collaborate. And I encourage people to connect with each other, refer business to each other, and actually do business together. And so it's expanded that way. And I like the diversity of that, whether it's private equity sessions or like today we'll have it for strategic consultants. And the key is that we can have a diversity of group stepping in and sharing those ideas. And out of that, we've spawned a way to be able to extend based on what's going on in the economic situation, the technology situation, and the growth of the world and the business to step into what we call business longevity.world. Business longevity.world is a way to really extend. I always wonder why Kodak and Blockbusters go out of business or what these are giants and even IBM all of a sudden is not like what they used to be. When I was around, they were the king of the world. They should have owned all the computers, should have owned AI and be the prime name, and they're no longer at that. So I wondered about that and I studied that and I look at that and be able to take the lessons that I can from that and disseminate it and share it with other businesses that want to know. And it gets down to three areas, really, three areas to make it simple. High outcomes, not just outcomes, but high outcomes, high expiration, 10x, and in some cases, 100x. I'm starting to hear 10x, 2x used to be big, 10x was to be enormous. Now 100x, it's like, you got to be kidding me. And Elon Musk is stepping in with that with Starlink and NVIDIA. They're showing up like that. So if they can do that, we could do that. We could replicate it. Next one is high performance. High performance is something that businesses do really well, actually, with technology, with tools, with people, putting the right people at the right place and letting them go and scale up. And we could see that like Apple is tremendously huge and some of the other organizations like OpenAI. And the third one is high direction. High direction. That's where the gap is with organizations. They can do really well with high outcomes, big opportunities, big plans, and execute in those directions. The high direction has to do the direction in the right place to do that. Like Stephen Covey used to say, if you put the ladder on the wrong wall, it doesn't matter anymore. You got to have it on the right wall to be able to climb. Then you could do it as fast and efficient as you want. But if you have it in the wrong wall, you're going the wrong direction, you lose and it crumbles down. And there's probably examples of that that happens with companies, especially as they start to scale down. And the big ones can rebound because they have the resources and talent like Microsoft did. And even with Google lately was impacted. All of a sudden they bounced right back up. The key is that smaller companies can't do that. They falter, or if they fail, they don't recover and stay in the right direction when they need to go. That's where coaching or training, consulting can step in to stay and keep them in the right direction. And that has a lot to do with alignment. To be able to be aligned with the entire organization. Very difficult to do if you have 1,000 employees. If you have 10 employees, it's still difficult. And even more important is nobody's really aware of the alignment. You are. I read your book, and you are with things that you have. And alignment goes deeper in multiple areas. We understand purpose and passion. And I think a lot of them get that. And I get that. And I'm very good at that. And vision, I can have that clarity. But it's the rest of the alignment. And there's 10 components to that to be able to make sure that it's aligned with what the organization set up to do and stay in alignment. And each person that contributes to the organization has their own beliefs and values and identities that takes it zigzag. So it's the ownership of the CEO to really keep the organization going through turbulent times and even good times. So it's really quite interesting to be able to do that with businesses, to be able to give more clarity so that they can have clarity about their outcomes. And the performance happens when they have that clarity. And the direction is important to make sure it stays on the grid. Because especially now with the advent of AI and robotics, genetics, the administration, the world events, all of those things are zigzag moments that perhaps deviates or changes the direction where the CEO wants to go. So I've seen personal examples about that as well too.
Hmm. So I appreciate the shout out of the book. Obviously it's very humbling to hear you speak of it in a high level, and thank you for that. Alignment is always been something that, as a young man, I, with my mom kind of learned those things and then had great mentors at 18, 19 years old. I talk about it in the book, but then really understanding kind of how to use that as leverage, right? Because that's ultimately, you know, whenever something happens, you have to make an assessment, a decision, but then who you align with, what your alignment of principles are, that's huge. So I really respect that and appreciate it. So, all right, now, businesslongevity.world. All right, with the peers on demand and these different industries that you've been able to create over the last, few decades, what has it been that has really propelled that business? Is it a time and place right now where people are wanting from the pandemic side, being so disconnected in some ways, and now you created the space where people, have an opportunity to kind of connect? And does it mean from a business perspective, is it like a subscription base? Is it based on the connectivity within the group, and then some opportunities come up as far as just equity into their companies? How do you put that together from a business stand?
Well, the key that I've done with Peers on Demand is to have it a free and open for people to participate that are interested in a particular topic by industry or by title, whether it's private equity or investor or strategic consultant. And as that shifted in thinking, what's next? And then the AI revolution, if you will, opened up a lot more so. And what's next is to be able to take advantage of what's going on in the world, the technology, and be able to be ahead of the curve, to be able to be in position to be able to offer a way for people to, number one, connect. And we've been doing that really well for people that can have discussions and explore ideas. And that's the second thing is the exploration, so that once they connect, then to explore together with somebody else ideas that perhaps make sense. And how many of those ideas happen, it all depends on the execution, of course. But exploring that. And the third thing is the imagination, because we're stepping into a really interesting world of imagination with AI. I can tell you that personally, I get blocked at some points of creativity. And then I step into using AI tools, and all of a sudden, my creativity just opens up a lot more. And it's an interesting perspective. So the imagination is going to be a combination of people and technology that's available. And we have different tools that we could use that, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or even Gemini. And the fourth thing is being able to co-create, create something, create a business, create a project, create something that brings value to an individual, to a team, to the community, to the world. That makes a lot of sense because all of a sudden, with a lot of value, then it creates a lot of revenue that keeps it going, keeps it in longevity. And I think that's the key to longevity is as long as you continue to bring value that people are ready, willing, and able to invest in some fashion, then the business will flourish. And that's the fifth step is to be able to flourish. So it's connect, explore, imagine what could happen, create something, and then the business flourishes and the world flourishes from that. So a lot of this is serendipity, just stepping in to see what would happen. And all of a sudden, we've sparked an interest with our team members that can really step into really taking pieces of those areas and implement, whether it's in technology with AI, really evolve a lot more, make it easier with a platform, whether it's with coaching, which I'm bringing on coaches that can really help in the communications, the direction, and being able to uncover what the gaps might be and being able to work with consulting. One of our team members is really good at that. Written a book, has raised a lot of capital. He's very good about being able to do that. And along the lines, we find that marketing is a key aspect. So we have a couple of marketing people that can come in and be able to tweak and approach and be able to elevate a business to where they want to be. And we have another peer in assessment that can assess where the company is. And I think that's crucial. And you mentioned that too in your book. The assessment is crucial to find out where the company or the individuals are at this particular time and the teams and how do they work together and assessing in multiple areas, not just the human assessment, also marketing assessment, the process improvement, the operations. So we call it reassess. Reassess where the organization is. Then we go into remediation to remediate what we uncover and with the agreement and in collaboration with the client that we can remediate what needs to be taken care of. Whatever gaps, either with coaching, consulting, training, marketing, and being able to get them to a level that elevates them faster than they could do that on their own. And the third aspect is readiness. There's a lot of companies that step in for the readiness part of private equity or investors and being able to bring resources into the company. But I'm understanding, John, that there's a lot of companies that are sunsetting or selling their business, or because maybe the owners are at the boomer age and have nobody to bequeath or give the business to. They want to sell their business, and there are companies that would acquire it for the resources that they have, or the customers or the clients. So that's the process that we're looking at: reassess, remediate, and getting them ready for the next stage that they need to do and go through. So with longevity, we're looking to have a place that is a platform that all those things can happen and we can tap in and be able to assist companies just in time and being able to help them get over where they need to go with bigger high outcomes, great high direction, and great performance. That's what it looks like, especially with what I'm starting to understand and hear, the instability that's happening in the business world. And from what I understand, it's the companies that are under 100 million or so that are going to be impacted more so because you have agents or agentics that are coming in to be able to replace some of the work that can be duplicated or can be automated. The larger organizations, I'm understanding that they're going to take a while, but they are also going to slim down and be able to re-educate or retransfer some of those people into some other role. I really believe fundamentally, John, that the tools of AI is going to elevate all of us. And yes, there's going to be a what I call a re-identification, a changing of a certain identity that somebody has to another identity or multiple identities. There's no limit to that. So everybody can have a different identity, can have the resources that they need to not just subsist, but also expand tremendously. And with that also, I really believe that this transfer that's going, it's going to impact global space. I'm understanding it's going to impact just in the US 40 million executives, 40 million, and impact. I'm not quite sure what that means, other than they're going to be re-identifying who they are and transferring in different areas depending on what the situation is. And that's a huge number. That's just the US. Globally, it's happening like that as well, too. And countries are taking action to be proactive about that. And that's up to us as individuals, as teams, as organizations to really take a stronger step and be proactive in that. So it's exciting times to be here. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, we live longer, we have more income, we have more intelligence, better relationships, growth tremendously. And I believe that's going to be 80%. There's going to be 20% that perhaps are going to struggle, and maybe the 80% from the top can elevate the bottom 20%.
I love it. Well, look, I mean, obviously, I shared offline something personal that just happened with some reorganization, restructuring, and really, the reaction I've had is my mindset is straight. I wrote a book that challenged me for 2.5 years to really think, and hopefully it's a great product that has shared, or helped a lot of people, but it also prepared me, right? And that's part of it. So everything you're saying is so dead on. And we have to look at it from a perspective of, hey, change is inevitable in all our lives, and things are going to happen, and life will happen, and disease, God forbid, something happens, or accidents, or mishaps, or reorgs, right, in your job or in your business that you didn't understand that was down the road. But these are all opportunities to grow and become better. So, Rocky, as an individual that I've seen for, about a decade and a half or so since I've known you, I've always seen you be very focused, right, in your leadership and the way that put yourself into the marketplace. What are some clues, some things that people can take away from this interview of how you've adjusted in that sense, right? And keeping yourself relevant, keeping yourself, very fruitful for the leadership in the small middle market type companies, and where you've taken that direction. So from a leadership perspective, it would be the question.
Yes, well, certainly everything starts with self-leadership. And if we can do well with ourselves, then we can lead others, and those can also become leaders that can pick up and with their teams or with their families and expand, and we start to multiply ourselves. And the leadership, I've gotten a lot of input from different leaders and successful people, and some contradict themselves. And so it's the ability for each one of us to pick what works, like Bruce Lee, pick what works, leave the rest. And so that's been an interesting journey. So it's not over because we're accelerating a lot more. But key to this is stay alive. There's a man called Brian Johnson that wrote a book called don't die. Well, I like to think don't die yet. His focus is get get better, get more alive. And so he's focused on longevity, and he's approached it from a really interesting way to really help himself physically, mentally, and emotionally. And he's inspired me to certainly get better rest, be able to focus on creativity, be able to focus on energy, work, and love. And there's another Brian Johnson who started heroic.us that's really inspired me as well too. He's written close to 1,000 book summaries with
Wow.
videos, and I have the opportunity and really privileged to listen to one every single day that I could take a lesson and apply it that day and as a podcast and listen to that. And so he summarizes very succinctly, very well. And all of a sudden, I've gained a lot of knowledge that I can apply, not just for myself, but particular situations. So those are two really influential. A third one is Ryan Doris with Stephen Cutler. They focused on being able to get into a flow state, the ability to have a flow state continuously. And the more I step into that, because I read their book with Stephen Cutler, The Rise of the Superman, is do we really want to do that? And yes, we do. We really want to get in a flow state continuously for one big reason, and that's to be creative. We are stepping into a world where our new identity is going to be as a creator. Create something. One of my mentors says, create every day. So how can I do that? How can I create something? And the key is to get into a state of flow. Once you get into a state of flow, like Ryan Dorr says, then creativity happens. It just happens. And I look forward to that. And that's been an interesting discovery. It's been 2 years in coming, but it's getting better and better. So the key is that sleep well, get creative, then get the energy with physical, get physically active, and with work, get mentally attuned and be able to create the value that the individual needs in the family, and love. Being able to do a sunset with people and have a way to really what's called the flow state, get into a relaxed state or recovery stage. So that's been quite interesting in implementing those skill sets. And it's a practice that can be duplicated because I actually borrowed it from somebody else, from Ryan Dorr, Stephen Cutler, and even Peter Diamandis. The key is to be able to stay alive fully and flowing and being able to really show up every single time. And getting sick is not allowed, and getting hurt is not allowed. So those are the two caveats, but it happens. So for a business, it starts with the individual. Live fully, live as best you can. And we all have a finite time until that happens. Then it's up to us to really open up those areas of how to do that. The other area, of course, is not just physically, but being actually active. And I have another mentor that really allowed me to think a little bit more about that from a longevity standpoint, which may apply to business. I'll see how that fits in. But from a personal standpoint, longevity, it means physically is to be able to keep your nervous system, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And that is very challenging and curious and puzzling to figure out how do you do that? And he's discovered how to do that. Because if you notice some of the athletes that are at their peak at 20, 30, 40, they really slow down or collapse when they get into the 70s or 80s. And many, very few, if any, have ever become centenarians. And we're in a world that we're going to step into that. So what if a business owner can be a centenarian physically and mentally and emotionally? That would be an interesting way. And I think we're heading in that direction, according to Peter Diamandis. And so with the nervous system, with physically sparking that, then there's neuroplasticity with the brain to be able to have not just the brain stimulation, but mind stimulation to be able to really be sharp and be able to look what Tony Robbins says, pattern recognition, to be able to look at the landscape, the business landscape, and look at what the patterns are. And actually, AI is very good for determining that as well too, to assist. But he talks about pattern recognition, and then once you do that, pattern utilization. How do you use that and be able to really uh, put it to use? And pattern creation. He also talks about creation. I also have some other ones that I think makes a lot of sense. Pattern collaboration. We want to be able to collaborate with ourselves, our team members, our family, and the organization. And the fifth one on that is pattern interruption. Pattern interruption. That is to be able to either flip the switch or move differently when you need to, and with all the signals are there to be able to do that. So you have pattern recognition, pattern utilization, pattern creation, pattern collaboration, and pattern creation. A lot to understand, unfold, but what happens is when you get in a creative mode, all of a sudden this starts to make a lot of sense. So that's from a physical and mental standpoint. An emotional standpoint is maintaining and keeping the relationships with ourselves and with others. And that is a very challenging area because all of us have different goals, directions, and aspirations. And so being able to align them in the organization, going in the same direction, that's the responsibility of the leader and the team to be able to do that.
Hmm. You gave a lot there, Rocky. So it's interesting, right? The patterns that you've identified are certainly something that really, from a leadership perspective, allow us to kind of compartmentalize each department in our brain and go, okay, hey, this is an area I need to focus in, and it could be switched in, right? I kind of have this. I go back to my Nintendo days where you put in a cartridge, you sit it down, and then you start playing the game, and then you take out the cartridge and you put another one. It kind of game. Hopefully, that's an interesting visual. I'll have to do a graphic on that. So, but neat. And obviously, I've had a ton of consultants on and fractional people, and I know offline we were talking about some things, but I'm very curious, and I think the Go for CEO community always loves to hear, from a perspective of marketing right now. Have you gotten to a point where it's just completely organic, or do you also market your business, newsletter, email lists, these types of things? What are some of the ways that you get into the marketplace?
Well, I must admit, the things that I've been doing have been crude, whether it's emailing or invitations, and doing as best we can prior to AI. AI is opening up a lot of different things that can really provide better information, more timely information that other people would want to know. And so we've got one of our peers that's focused in the marketing aspect, and that's one of the key crucial aspects of a business. There's actually three steps. The marketing is a big one to be concerned about or consider. The innovation of our organization, and I think the third one is always the people. So, from a marketing standpoint, I'm starting to relearn how to approach that. Create websites, create a video, and be able to really put out smaller videos to be able to really bring people into a platform, to be able to communicate better and continuously bring more value. That's something that AI is assisting me and our team to be able to get better at that. That one is one of those that is continuous and it may change very quickly depending on what people's preferences are. And so we have to be really adaptable with that. Innovation is another one that has to continuously come up with ideas and have a way to bring together four or five people, and probably no more than that, to be able to think out loud about ideas. What if this? What if that? And then put it to a test on AI to be able to scale that up. And the people, of course, is to be able to be among people and really get diverse ideas. It's really quite interesting to get somebody's ideas, not just ideas, but maybe their aspirations, but also their challenges and fears that they're facing and be able to bring them in and connect and communicate with that. So I really enjoy that. That's probably the joy of my life is to be able to have a place that we can connect with like-minded people and get different ideas and be able to work together in some fashion and take it to the next step. That is the direction I'm accelerating. I think that will spearhead the marketing. Everything, the marketing will support the way that we can communicate and do business and actually flourish.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Rocky, look, the way that we end our, Go for Show interviews are with CEO, right? Client experience, engagement, and I'll kind of walk you through the engagement, and then O for operational excellence. And it sounds like you've been really kind of flourishing in this moment in time where operationally you're tweaking some things and bringing on some new tools. So I'll guide you on that as well. So client experience, when you think about peers on demand, business longevity.world, the other aspects of what you do, even one-on-one coaching and one-to-many, what is the client experience that you expect? And if you could share that from a value proposition standpoint over the next 30, 60 seconds, what would that look like? And you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, we want to go for high outcomes. The high outcomes scale that up. If you could do this, can you do twice as much with half as much time? That's an interesting way to approach it more because how can you do more? I mean, the CEOs or the clients have already come up with big ideas. The next is, of course, the high direction. Be able to keep them focused towards that and be able to make sure that that stays top of mind consistently. And not just in the present, not just in the next year, but also 25 years from now and also lifetime. What's amazing about that, when that clarity happens, and it doesn't have to take a long time, then it really circulates throughout the organization. And the third thing, of course, is high performance. And I think businesses are really good at that with people and the tools that we have. I think we've gotten really good at high performance. The key is to be able to be on the right area, the right direction. Yeah, but it's because if you're high performing in the wrong direction, then it's a lot of wasted time, effort, and inevitably brings the company down. So I think that speaks to what we look for with clients to be able to help them get results faster.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Rocky, we always ask our guests to share engagement. It used to be employee engagement and these things, but I've really honed in on it's unique to be able to speak to someone and have them as a guest on the podcast. And then it's even more unique of how they like to engage and they are seen in the marketplace or in their friendships or in their family as how they engage. So, what I mean by that is, are you a dinner person, Rocky? Are you a event person? Do you like to have a group meeting or celebration? What's the way that people would that you would most like to and you feel most energized of engaging with others?
Well, I really do like events to be able to connect and with like-minded people. And I find that like-minded people are cross boundaries. So they could be here, I'm in Miami or in the US or across the world. And the ability to be able to have a Zoom conference is just marvelous to be able to bring the right people, have some right thoughts, and be able to collaborate. What I thought was an obstacle is not speaking the language. And like you, I speak Spanish as well and I'm multilingual, but English is the lingua franca that everybody could speak and understand. And so that's brought us together a lot better, especially with AI and all the tools that we have. Everything is in English. So having an event that we can get together, I prefer being in person, and I do that in a church community. I do that because we have like-minded areas for that particular area. But when we're talking about technology or business, it has to cross the boundaries to get the best people wherever they're at and be able to communicate. And that's been really quite interesting and really joyful to be able to participate.
All right, all right. Well, I love the engagement part. It's always something really cool because everybody has a different way of looking at it, which, obviously exemplifies what everybody is their own unique person and the way they come into a certain situation. So, last one is operational excellence, Rocky. So, from peers on demand to business longevity.world to other businesses that you have, what are some of the tools that you're using? And if you could, specify them. Like, are you a high go guy, or are you a Monday dot, work guy, or, these types of things or tools, or Claude or anything like that. What is helping you in your business right now to be operationally excellent?
Well, the biggest difference has been in having the ability to be in a creative moment every single day.
Hmm.
There's no days off. In fact, I look forward to that. So early morning creativity, however long it takes, it's dark, there's no clocks, there's no time. It's just a moment to be creative. That is probably, and we could use different tools. I use different tools to be able to get me into that state, but that is really key because of being able to take care of 80% of the work that needs to be done in 20% of the time. So 20% of the time to get 80%, absolutely every single day to do that. Even Saturday and Sundays, I'm wondering, should I take a break? But I like it so much that it's part of me. And so the tools, of course, when I use that is all the AI tools. I used to use a lot of them. I've got them down to OpenAI is really good for, or ChatGPT for what I call tactical. All the things that I can really find out really quickly. It's a step above Google search. So the tactical in a business to be able to, what's the preparation for my meeting? Who am I going to meet? Give me some background, summarize books, give me all those things that are tactical, and then I use Anthropic or Claude.ai for strategic. That has really elevated my thinking. That's where I do my stress tests. That's where I do my alignment. My companies align in what areas? Where are the gaps? Where is it stressed at? When I talk to a particular client, where are the opportunities, the challenges, the concerns, the problems? And I also put in another one, a worthy opponent. If you're going to have a great worthy goal, you need a worthy opponent. It mimics movies maybe, but with a worthy opponent, you can reach up and match that with a worthy goal. And so those are tools that I'm starting to use now to be very strategic in business. And of course, Zoom events. I have a daily Zoom event with all our clients, and being able to and I think those are tools just we now take it for granted. And what I'm stepping into is with some of my peers are developing these agentic tools to be able to take a server and put in, we're stepping into with Claudebot to be able to put it in and be able to create uh, the essence of a complete business. And so we'll see how that happens. I keep hearing about that. So buying servers, buying computers to be able to step into that. That's something that Peter Diamandis has mentioned, and they're expanding on it. And they're going to talk a lot more in their uh, spring session this year.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, you've wrapped it up with a nice bow. I really appreciate you coming on. And like I said at the beginning, you were my first coach that I actually brought on into my world. I've had some mentors, but you really gave me some tactical ways of looking at things, some points of reference that I still use today, and always super, engaging in everything that you do. So thanks so much. Let people know what's the best way to get a hold of you. How do they interact with your companies? And how should they be able to kind of reach out if they're interested in what you're doing?
Well, certainly they can go to my website, businesslongevity.world, and get on my calendar. My calendar is rockyromero.com, rockyromero.com. It's a good way to reach me and connect with me and be able to just interact and see if we can invite you to our community.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much again. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Pick up the book, The 4A Formula, Untangle Any Challenge and Think Like a CEO. This is one of the third or fourth times I've heard someone that's been a guest that has read the book and have given a great praise. So I thank you so much, Rocky, for that opportunity and for sharing that, wisdom that you've had throughout the life that you've been able to put together. And looking forward to many, many big, big things and longevity. All right, let's go to centenarianism, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. And plus that centenarian, be a centenarian actually,
oh, centenarian.
a
Yeah,
super centenarian.
super centenarian. All right, awesome. Well, as long as I can keep this current body into 150, then I'll be fine. But we'll see. But awesome. Thank you so much, Rocky, and Go for Show channel. Welcome back again, and let's keep it growing. Keep on building the community. Take care.
John, thanks for this.